Hello, hello, hello. I'm sorry, hello everyone. Today we're gonna react. We're just gonna take out the chase. I don't get time today. But today we're gonna react to Blue Jay. Yeah, I'm so sorry for being my brain is fogging. So sorry guys. But yeah, it's history, Irish history. Let's see what that's about. I never seen this before. I know Blue Jay. I've been looking at him for 3 years now, and he's only produced good content. And I'd say his joke might be over or too much for you. It's not family friendly, but I did not ever set my videos for kid anyway. So let's watch this. This is gonna be
On the
fun.
steps of this General Post Office on Easter Monday, 1916, Patrick Pearse announced to a crowd of Dubliners that on that day, a new Irish Republic was born. And with that, an uprising against British rule had begun in what would later become known as the Easter Rising. This post office served as the headquarters for the rebels, either because of its strong, thick walls, or because a few rebels had some Amazon packages coming in. Either way, it's a solid choice. Everyone knows the second most important rule of a good republic is a solid set of white pillars. First
Yes.
rule being annoying political ads. In fact, you can still
Yes.
see bullet holes in said pillars over 100 years after the uprising.
Also, I'm sorry. Because this is a really short video, 5 minutes only. I'm not gonna post too much. I'm not gonna comment on it too much. I might disturb something. I might disturb some of it, but I might not gonna post too much. So this is gonna be either one and only pause in this video.
Which were definitely left there to make them look cool. Kind of like the ripped jeans of architecture. The rebels went on to capture many other strategic buildings on O'Connell Street, including a wireless telegraph station where they sent out the first radio broadcast in Ireland, a Morse code
Yeah, I heard
message
it.
announcing
I
their
heard it
new
before.
nation, which, compared to other countries, is a pretty metal first transmission. America's was a combination of poetry, violin music, and Bible readings, which was
Violin
undoubtedly
music.
played to the horror of thousands of Midwestern Catholic kids. The Easter Rebellion lasted 6 days and resulted in the unconditional surrender of the Irish freedom fighters, but it sowed the seeds for an independent Ireland that would come in the following decades. But this video will not be a deep dive into that very fascinating and complex story. For that, I recommend Extra Credits' fantastic series on it. Instead, we're gonna do things a bit more Blue Jay. So here are some obscure, unimportant, but fascinating stories about the Easter Rising of 1916.
I love the unimportant one. It's always beautiful.
The Easter Rising involved brutal artillery strikes on civilians, suicidal bayonet charges, and the execution of bystanders suspected to be rebels. So it shouldn't be all that surprising to hear that, during the Six-Day Insurrection, ceasefires were not very common. But not impossible. For the rebels and Brits, there was one thing so important that even the bloody struggle for freedom had to be put on hold. Ducks.
What is it? Oh,
Here at
ducks.
St. Stephen's Green, the volunteers of the Irish Citizens Army and the British soldiers held a daily ceasefire so that the weirdly dedicated park keeper, James Kearney, could come out and feed the ducks. Now, was this an act of wholesomeness and humility between two factions, or were both sides just afraid of provoking an escalated response from the Oquack militia? We may never
Yes.
know. But if there's one thing I've
we
learned
might
from
never
talking
know.
to both Brits and Irish, it's that they don't fuck with the ducks. And if you find
Never.
this story ridiculous, you know what they say. No war has ever been waged without its fair share of quackery.
Yes.
As a
Thank you,
quick
sir.
side story, there's an award called the Freedom of the City of Dublin that numerous iconic historical figures have received, such as Eamon de Valera, Barack and Michelle Obama, and Bono. The honor comes with many perks, such as being
What?
able to vote in some elections, and even the right to pasture their sheep on the common grounds, including here at St. Stephen's Green. Perhaps a rather dated perk, but nonetheless a right that Bono wasted no time in exercising. However, in the ancient privileges and duties, there is a provision that stipulates freed men/freed women must defend the city and could be called into the militia at a short notice. So, if you ever start another rising in Dublin, there is a non-zero chance that you would face Obama and Bono on the battlefield.
What?
Before
Oh
the
my
Easter Rising
God.
began, the Military Council of the Irish Republican
Non-zero
Brotherhood
chance.
sought out German aid for their planned uprising. Seeing as how the Germans were currently engaged in this little disagreement with the Brits, they happily supported Irish independence, agreeing to a wee bit of gun smuggling for the Irish freedom fighters.
little
So, on April
disagreement,
6,
sure.
1916, Germany dispatched the gun-stuffed SS Liebau to Ireland and disguised it as a Norwegian vessel to avoid capture, which is becoming somewhat of a common theme on this channel. After powering through a violent storm like a champ, it successfully reached its destination of Tralee Bay. This isn't Tralee Bay, this is Hoth, that's all the way on the other side of the island, and I'm scared to drive on the left side of the road. But I figured
That
this
makes
is also
sense.
water, and it doesn't matter, because I'm the best sight in this frame anyway. However, there was a slight hiccup. There wasn't anyone to meet them there. The lee bow had arrived
Oh.
on Thursday, April 20th, but the Irish nationalists weren't expecting to meet them until Easter Sunday, April 23rd.
Oh.
And in
So,
Ireland, there's a saying for this kind of conundrum.
yes.
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs.
I knew it.
But to be fair, the Germans were reading maps
Oh,
in Norwegian and
spaghettios.
didn't have a working radio, so I think just arriving at the right spot at all is deserving of a pat on the back. Without a working radio to
Well,
inform them of the updated meeting
that's
date,
one way to
there
do
they
it.
sat, twirling their thumbs. Or pretzels, or whatever Germans do to pass the time. But they didn't have to wait too long,
Sorry.
because soon enough, 3 Royal Navy destroyers closed in on the masquerading German vessel. And in
Oh.
Germany, there's a saying for this kind of conundrum.
No.
Oh shit, oh fuck, I'm screwed.
Oh,
So instead of
no.
allowing the weapons to fall into British hands, the Germans scuttled the ship, which unfortunately doesn't mean it spread little crab legs and ran its way up the beach to Dublin. It means it detonated charges and sank the ship down the Leprechaun Jones's locker.
What?
Ireland would finally claim independence after the signing of the Anglo-Irish Treaty of 1921, becoming the
Oh.
Irish Free State, which
Well,
is a
wait,
little
which
misleading
person?
because while yes, they were self-governing, they still had the British King George V as the head of the state. Honestly, a good rule
George
of thumb is
V.
that whenever you see adjectives in a state's name, assume the opposite. The United States has nothing united about it, the Democratic
Yeah.
People's Republic of Korea is none of those things,
Oh,
and the Isle of
no.
Man actually totally delivers. So
Oh,
the word
wow.
free in Irish
Isle
Free
of Man.
State should be taken with a grain of salt. It wouldn't be until 1949 when Ireland would officially be declared the Republic of Ireland, breaking off all ties with the
Republic
Commonwealth.
of
But
Ireland, I
unfortunately,
see.
they still wouldn't be able to break ties with the UK's weather.
Oh yeah, it is look like it does look like doesn't like it. I'm not saying no. Well, hmm, that's a fast one. That's a really fast. That's really fast and really packed with information and a bit of humor. Not too bad humor, just one swear word, which is pretty good for his video. In 5 minutes only, I got really. This one's really short, and I don't want to waste more time. I guess that's all for today. So bye bye. Thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for watching.